September 15th, as we are on our way to Washington, D.C. for the premiere screening of Incarcerating US. Documentary, just like other documentaries, Elementary Genocide 1 and 2, is basically put together to raise awareness of the criminal justice system, mass incarceration, and real reentry solutions for our brothers and sisters that are returning home from prison. So once again, Incarcerating US is going to dive into how the war on drugs started back in the 70s, where Nixon declared the war on drugs, and Ronald Reagan continued those policies, and President Bill Clinton came in and doubled down on those policies and basically gave us what we have today in mass incarceration, the United States being the biggest incarcerator in the world when it comes down to how many people that we have behind prisons. A report just came out yesterday that talks about the $1 trillion in costs of incarceration, and then if you add on the social parts of that cost is even higher. So when we look at this system of mass incarceration and where we are today, we have to start looking at how do we not only dismantle that system, but also look at how do we start to reintegrate those who are coming home from prison back into society. And when we do that and do that right, we not only reduce crime, we reunite families, and we make our communities safer at the same time. Let's talk about 1963 during the Civil Rights Movement. You know, we fought for the civil rights, we won that. And in 1968, Martin Luther King Jr., along with Ralph Abernathy and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, all decided that they will start another campaign, which was the Poor People's Campaign. And why did we do that? We did that because once we found and once we got our civil rights, that did not lead to economic rights. And those economic rights and those economic injustices that we face was still prevalent in 1968 as they was in 1963. So once we realized that the civil rights movement did not give us the economic freedom that we needed, we started another campaign to rectify that problem. So once again, we're here to talk about economics and what that means not only through history, but where we're at in 2016. As we were pulling up here to the African American Museum, I was able to talk with a few of the folks that arrived with us and talk about the significance of how this place was built. Some of the contractors that actually worked on this building, like A.J. Russell, which was a small painting company in the early 70s in Atlanta, Georgia, where Mayor Maynard Jackson was the mayor then, and where he actually shut down the Atlanta airport when there wasn't enough African Americans on that job. Since that time, H.J. Russell went on to get a contract at the Atlanta airport and have since gone on to be one of the largest African American contracting firms here in the United States. And I wanted to share that story because it tells you the significance of what we can do when given an opportunity. Given an opportunity by an African American mayor who saw the value and economic opportunities for his community and made sure that he took a stand to make sure that we were all included in the building of Atlanta and the building of Atlanta Airport. So once again, when we take these opportunities that are in these urban areas, and this is why we're here in D.C. With me and my partner, C.J. Meenan, teaching the entrepreneurship training course to 15 returning citizens, because we believe creating economic opportunities in our communities not only reunite communities, make our communities safer, but also reunite families at the same time. So when done right, we believe that real reentry solutions to the mass incarceration problem, to the criminal justice problem, lies, of course, in education, of course, in employment, but it also lies in economic power and economic opportunities. Hey man, how you doing?
I'm thankful for God's blessings. I couldn't miss this. I said I'm gonna be like a dry cleaner in one day and out. I couldn't miss it before. I'm so proud of you for what you're doing.
Thank you. How you doing?
It's too much.
Tracey Syphax, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
One of the contributors to the film.
I'm one of the contributors to the film, so he was telling me. Oh, you work with Amy? Okay, all right, cool.
Amy and I, and others, of course, many.
Oh, that's great.
Together.
That's great. That's great. That's
Absolutely.
great. So
Yep.
you'll be seeing the film for the first time tonight?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. It's a
Yep.
very good film.
We know that it's also in Tribeca tonight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Actually 10 different cities, including Tribeca.
Oh, really?
So they
Okay.
telecasting
Didn't
it.
know
Yep.
that.
So
Very
it's
good.
going to start getting around. I had the opportunity to view the whole film about 2 months ago, and it's very, very, very well done.
And this young man's from New Jersey.
Hey,
Oh.
way to go.
Jersey's in the house.
Yeah.
Let me get your first and last name one more time.
Tracey Syphax.
And how do you spell your last name?
Syphax.
And your title.
My title is author entrepreneur.
Tell us about your role in the documentary.
Well, my role in the documentary as an author entrepreneur now, but someone who has spent 18 years in some of the toughest parts of Trenton, New Jersey growing up, and actually spent close to 7 years in prison myself. So having gone through those experiences, come home and been able to get a job and then turn that job into a couple of businesses, I was able to tell my story to life as my movie for the documentary Incarcerating US.
Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to the world premiere showing of the powerful new documentary, Incarcerating US. My name is Mark Howard. I'm a professor in the Department of Government at Georgetown. I also have a joint appointment here at the Georgetown Law Center. And I'm the director of the Prisons and Justice Initiative at Georgetown, which is sponsoring this event. I also want to acknowledge a co-sponsor, the Race and Criminal Law Working Group at the Georgetown Law Center. Now, as many of you know, but perhaps not all, the Prisons and Justice Initiative was launched just last semester. And the goal that we have is creating a nonpartisan academic institute that brings together leading scholars, practitioners, and students who are interested in examining and hopefully finding solutions to the problem of mass incarceration.
There was a story today we had in Politico. My colleague Sarah Wheaton quoted Senator Cory Booker saying he thought there's only a 20% chance of a deal on sentencing reform. Do you agree with him? And what do you think should happen on Capitol Hill right now?
Well, I hope he's right. It's only 20%. Well, the word that disturbed me was the word something. We got to pass something. How about thinking about what you're doing and do something positive that makes sense? In crime policy is easy once you've made the decision of what your purpose is. Are you playing politics or are you trying to reduce crime and save money? Now, once you've made that decision, the rest of the policy is easy. In Texas, they figured out how to, they were facing a budget deal. Somebody said you had to build $2 billion worth of new prisons at the rate you're going. Somebody says, well, if you invest about a couple $100 million intelligently in prevention, early intervention, and rehabilitation, maybe you wouldn't have to build all $2 billion worth of prisons. They did. Turns out they didn't have to build any new prisons. They actually closed some they had. If you intelligently go about allocating your resources where it makes some sense. The problem with the pending legislation is there's been no debate. It was basically a political operation where everybody kind of went in the back room, I need some of this, you need some of that, and then you come out, can't we all get along? I can't get a straight answer to anybody. What is the purpose of the legislation? What problem are you trying to solve?
Well, Senator Booker says, look, it'll liberate men and women. It'll let people out right now. We can come back for better legislation later.
That's a real close call. Really, I mean, it's a close call. CBO scored it at $700 billion savings. Now, there's one good provision. It's retroactive application of the Fair Sentencing Act. That's a big deal. And that scored, the total score, $700 billion, that's half of it. The president, in his executive actions, is actually doing, I don't know what, if they rescored it now and rescored it at the end of the year, most of those savings would have been achieved just by executive action. The problem with the bill is it has so many forward steps and backward steps. When you add it up, you're not sure whether you're...
Would you vote against it then if it came up?
Yes, I think there are dangers in the bill because, one, it has, I mean, what is the purpose of the bill? How do you explain new mandatory minimums in the bill? expanded mandatory minimums in the bill, reduced mandatory minimums in the bill. I mean, everybody said, I get a little of this, you get a little of that. Yeah, I'm going to vote against it because the purpose of those mandatory minimums was to get anybody who supports it to shut up about mandatory minimums. Because you can't come in and say that mandatory minimums, as Julie's been saying for 20-some years, you can't, mandatory minimums are inherently reprehensible. They do not reduce crime. They discriminate against minorities. They waste the taxpayers' money. This is a RAND study. Waste the taxpayers' money. And they inevitably will require a judge to impose a sentence that violates common sense.
Tracey, what happened to your cousin? I'm curious. Your cousin who's in the film.
My cousin is in the film. He's home. He ended up going back, relapse, but I believe he's home now again. So, you know, when you look at drug addiction, and I tell people this all the time, you know, a lot of kids are growing up in situations that they have no choice in. You're not born into a neighborhood or born into a family that's effective or ravaged with drugs. It's not a choice. It just happens. And far too often, when that happens, you know, we have a nation say that we are built on Christian principles of the Bible. Well, I've read in that Bible where it talks about forgiveness and redemption. And we just have to be a lot more compassionate, especially when it comes to the mentally ill and folks with drug problems. I had a drug problem, and I sold drugs to supply my habit. Ended up spending 7 years of my life in prison because of those mistakes. But I also recognize that some of our most talented individuals are in prison. And if we can give them the opportunity, and I've been so glad to be, for once was a part of the problem, but now consider myself to be a part of the solution, is that we've actually developed a program, as myself being a 21-year entrepreneur now in business, knowing that I know we have some of our best talents in jail, we created a program to teach them entrepreneurship and to teach them how to start and run a business and to teach them how to fend for themselves when nobody else is going to give them a job. So I'm proud to be here in D.C. We're actually doing our pilot program here in D.C. where we're taking 15 returning citizens and teaching them how to start and run a business. I believe some of our students are here in the audience tonight. Are they still here? I see Melissa back here. Melissa, just wave your hand. And a few of our other students was here earlier. My partner, C.J. Meaning, is here, who's the professor of the bunch. I'm just the guy that with the experience, but this is the actual guy that teaches the academics, and I kind of come in and give them the real-life experience. But once again, I believe they all have the talent and ability to do some great things if we give them that opportunity to do that. So, and I just want to say before I end, I want to thank Reagan and Vincent for a great year and a half that we spent working on the film. We have some stories about filming in Trenton that'll kind of make another movie for itself, but it was a great time spent with them, and I'm just so proud of what they were able to do and how we can take this film and raise awareness to this issue.
Thank you. And Carolyn, this is you.